coming to you right now. We have 3 fights coming to you on the preliminary broadcast tonight, all leading up to the main event, Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder. But up first, another pair of heavyweights. Victor Faust taking on Mike Marshall in a scheduled 8-round heavyweight clash. And then the pro debut of Bruce "Shushu" Carrington taking on Cesar Cantu. And in our prelim main event for the Junior NABF Featherweight Championship, Ramirez taking on Orlando Gonzalez. And welcome inside the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Thank you to everybody tuning in early to join us. I'm Christina Poncher, and I'm joined tonight by the versatile, very talented, my partner, Ray Flores. Ray, how excited are you to be here tonight for a card of this magnitude?
Well, there is nothing like the heavyweight championship of the world in Las Vegas. Nothing beats it. It's literally and big, you know, in many aspects. It is so massive. And tonight, the final chapter will be written in the legacy of both men when it comes to their rivalry. Wilder Fury number 3, for all the marbles. It doesn't get any better than this, Christina.
So before we get to our all-heavyweight pay-per-view, we start off the night with, of course, heavyweights. These two scheduled for 8 rounds. Victor Faust and Mike Marshall, our principals, are already in the ring. There's a look at Mike Marshall fighting out of Harlem, New York, as we take a quick look at the tail of the tape.
Well, as we take a look at our tail of the tape, what stands out to me, Christina, is the height and the reach advantage in favor of Victor Faust, who is making his U.S. debut.
And here's our ring announcer for tonight, Mark Chinook.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome inside the T-Mobile Arena here in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. This evening is brought to you by Bob Arum's Top Rank Incorporated, Frank Warren of Queensberry Promotions, Bomb Squad Promotions, and TGB Promotions. This is a Premier Boxing Champions presentation, sanctioned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, Chairman Stephen J. Klubeck, Vice Chairman Mr. Bob Bennett. Our ringside physicians, David Obert, Raimundo Leon, Rhonda Bacharon, Jay Coates, and Joseph Heflin. Our timekeepers this evening, Jim Cavan, Steve Esposito, and Steve Mazzagatti. This bout is scheduled for 8 rounds in the heavyweight division, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Our judges at ringside, Eric Cheek, Max DeLuca, and Chris Migliori. And the man in charge at the sound of the bell, Mr. Robert Hoy. Introducing first, out of the blue corner. He weighed in at 242 pounds, wearing black and blue trunks. He brings a record of 6 victories with only 1 defeat, 1 draw. 4 of those victories coming by way of knockout. From Harlem, New York, fly, Mike Marshall! Introducing out of the red corner. He weighed in at 233 pounds, wearing white trunks with gold trim. He brings a perfect record, 7 wins, no defeats. 5 of those victories coming by way of knockout. From Svitlovos, Ukraine, Victor Faust!
All right, gentlemen, we went over the instructions in the dressing room. Anything on his waistband is a fair blow. Anything on his will be a low blow. Okay, I'm gonna just touch him up.
Robert Coyle, the third man in the ring tonight. Christina Poncher and Ray Flores joining you. Thank you for joining us in the opening bout of our Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder 3 fight night undercard. This is the only heavyweight bout on the undercard until we get to the pay-per-view portion. Again, if you have not bought pay-per-view yet. ESPN Plus pay-per-view, Fox Sports pay-per-view, a loaded card for you coming up later tonight. But first, Victor Faust in the white and gold trunks, Mike Marshall in the blue and black trunks.
Already the jab affected Marshall as it backed him up. He almost momentarily wobbled, Christina, and I think that's something to keep your eye on because the jab has already been problematic, and we aren't even 30 seconds into this fight.
Victor Faust 7-0 with 5 knockouts, making his U.S. debut tonight. He did fight in the World Series of Boxing where he went 3-1, but turned pro pretty late at 27 years old, February of 2020, and an undefeated record ever since.
Well, for Faust, this is a big moment for him making his U.S. debut on a card of this magnitude. Incidentally, it happens to be in the pay-per-view portion all heavyweights. So all of these heavyweights, you know that the focus is going to be on Wilder Fury when it comes to what's going to happen in the main event. But the other 3 guys on the pay-per-view, the other 3 fights, they want to make a statement. They want to be known as the next big thing. And Faust is trying to prove that he is something more than just a prospect.
Right hand there set up by the double jab. He's kind of pawing that jab out there, but the right hand has found home early here against Mike Fly Marshall, fighting now out of Danbury, Connecticut.
Christina, what I like about Faust in my initial analysis is he's fighting tall. He has a very good stiff jab. He's placing it right on the face of one Mike Marshall, and he's keeping his distance well. I mean, you can tell he comes from that Ukrainian school of boxing. He fights tall, a very stiff jab, and he sets up the right hand with the jab, and he's definitely up on the jab at times.
Multiple times with former lineal heavyweight champion Vladimir Klitschko, so that's some good work right there.
And Tyson Fury is the man who, was the man, and that's why Fury is still the lineal heavyweight champion of the world.
Stiff jab there, backs up Marshall once again. Marshall more on the reactive.
Well, Marshall's fought relatively limited opposition, and he's having difficulty with the height advantage that Faust possesses.
Mike Marshall is 6-1 as a professional, picking up a win in his last fight against Jose Corral. But the majority of the fighters that he's fought so far as a pro, only 2 of them with a winning record.
Well, it's a big step up in competition for Mike Marshall, and so far he's learning that it is not that easy to deal with someone of the ilk of Victor Faust, and Faust will hammer away on him.
A good start for the Ukrainian in his U.S. debut as we come to the end of round 1. This fight scheduled for 8 rounds. Faust has been in 3 fights scheduled for 8 or longer, but going the distance in his last 2 fights, Mike Marshall has gone 10 rounds twice. So we take a look into the Faust corner. Later on this evening, in that red corner, will be sitting Tyson Fury, the lineal and WBC heavyweight champion of the world, taking on Deontay Wilder. That's coming up later, a 4-fight pay-per-view. Plenty of time to buy that pay-per-view. If you look up the screen here, it starts at 6 p.m. local time, 9 p.m. Eastern. You can even scan the QR code to buy the pay-per-view from ESPN Plus and Fox Sports. So,
and an all-heavyweight pay-per-view card. I mean, in all these fights, as I look at them from top to bottom, Christina, you look at Anderson, Jared Anderson, who's a rising heavyweight, Nazi Helenius, Jacques Sanchez, and that's before you even get to Fury Wilder number 3. Are you kidding me? If you don't order this pay-per-view, then you don't like entertainment.
And that co-main between FA and Frank Sanchez, I mean, we talk about 50-50 fights. I mean, I've seen arguments either way. Both of them have that eraser in their right hand. So
they don't like each other. And we did see that press conference on Thursday. They don't like each other. The weigh-in boiled over a little bit, and tonight they get it on. But right now, I am very impressed with Victor Faust.
Good start so far. Primarily just working the jab because, look, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Victor Faust has established that early and has used it often as he tries to fend off that.
I think it's only a matter of time. The jab was established in the first round for Faust, and I think we're going to start to see him put together more punches and unload that right hand along with that check clash choke, as you pointed out.
Right here, left hook right here.
Marshall's corner calling for him to get his jab going, saying don't let him establish his. But every time Mike goes to unleash, it's a right hand, a left hand. There's another big right hand from Faust. He's just having a hard time getting anything to land as Faust continues to push Mike Marshall back.
Faust's confidence is growing as he's starting to really walk down Mike Marshall. He's getting more on his front foot, and he's starting to pressure Marshall.
Big right hand and a left hand gets in that sends Marshall back to the corner. Faust pouring it on. Swinging wide hooks here. Action comes back to the middle as he pushes Mike Marshall back once again to the ropes.
Marshall looks like he's been blitzed. That is, you see his eyes are wide open, his body language isn't giving me anything to really hang your hat on. I mean, he just looks like, let me try to absorb this punishment.
And down goes Mike Marshall.
7, 8. Come to me. Hey, keep your head up, get your feet on.
Blood coming from the nose of Mike Marshall. You said it right, he looked blitzed. He's never recovered from that exchange here in the corner. We'll see if he can get out of round 2. Just about 30 seconds left.
Faust is overwhelming him, but in a tactical way. He's systematically breaking him down, and Marshall has no answer to even one part of the weaponry that Faust possesses.
Yeah, I'm impressed by the composure of Faust not to overshoot his shot too early in this fight. Just 7 fights as a pro, but as I mentioned, turned pro at 27 years old after a big amateur background. So looks like he's got his composure.
He's unflappable. He's relaxed. He's composed. He is dissecting his opponent, and he knows it's only a matter of time.
Mike Marshall's going to get out of round 2 barely with the right hand out the bell.
What a hard day at the office for Mike Marshall. And Victor Faust, the 27-year-old or 29-year-old Ukrainian, using that stiff jab, obviously emblematic of that of one of his sparring partners, the former linear heavyweight champion, Vladimir Klitschko, setting up that beautiful right hand. And Marshall seems to be overwhelmed and is really perplexed by the kind of power that Faust possesses, along with the technical brilliance that he's exhibiting in the fight as well. He tried to bull rush him, and then he just fell into, I believe it was like a left hook on the top of the head. And Faust is okay with being physical, and there's a nice right hand to boot, and Marshall's like, come on, man. I thought it was on the break. He's like, I'm already getting punished enough. I thought I had a respite there.
And they're going to let him out here for round 3. So far, it's been all Victor Faust for the first 2 rounds of this fight, scheduled for 8. Christina Poncher and Ray Flores here with you at the T-Mobile Arena. That will take a slip there as we start round 3.
Robert Hoyle, you would gather, probably has a little bit of a shorter leash on Mike Marshall than what he did in the first 2 rounds, based on the accumulation of punishment that he's absorbed. And you see the blood is on the trunks of Victor Faust's compliments on Mike Marshall.
And to your point, he spent most of that break eyeing Mike Marshall.
I don't speak Russian or Ukrainian, Christina, but I would tell you that I would gather in the corner, they probably said, get this guy out of there. You don't get paid by the hour. Go out and finish this guy. Let's go home.
I wouldn't mind seeing a little more sense of urgency, especially given the opportunity you are tonight on a big card like this, to try to go in there and make a statement to the heavyweight division tonight. I'm not saying he's anywhere close to getting a world title shot of that sort, but still, big opportunity, big stage for the young man tonight.
When you're on ESPN Plus, you're on Fox Sports, you're all over the world right now. First fight of a massive card that everyone's talking about. You want to be the one to start off the night. People are talking about you on social media.
The blood all over Faust is from Mike Marshall. No cut on Faust at this point, primarily because Marshall hasn't really been able to land a punch so far.
He hasn't touched him, as you pointed out.
And another knockdown, the second of the fight.
Take a knee and look at the ref. Take the knee and look at the ground.
6.
Get up on 6 now. Get
7.
up.
8.
Look at the ground.
You want to continue? Good.
It looked like from the body language,
Sammy, say
Mike
something.
Marshall really wants to continue, and that is over. In fact, he does not. It is a TKO victory for Victor Faust in his U.S. debut.
That was the right call from Robert Hoyle, because we overheard the corner of Mike Marshall said, take a knee, get up at 6. The body language, the eyes, the demeanor proved to Robert Hoyle Marshall wanted no part of Victor Faust, and he would continue. He had an opportunity to get even hurt that much more.
Victor Faust improves his record now to 8-0 with 6 KOs.
And look, for your U.S. debut, you went out there, you didn't lose a minute of the fight, you didn't lose a second of the fight. You went out, established your jab, you broke him down, you finished him off before you even reached the midway point of the fight. As I look at Victor Faust as a whole, exemplary across the board, Christina.
Really good start to his next chapter of his career here in the United States. Knows it's a big opportunity. He said he'd love to fight here again. Knows it doesn't get much bigger than a card of this magnitude, and went in there and got a knockout in the 3rd round. Let's take a look at a couple replays and how he got it done tonight.
Well, to me, it was the jab that really started things off, and then he started to mix in that right hand. He seemed so comfortable. He was boxing on his toes, using that stiff jab throughout the entire fight. Bang, there's that right hand again. That backed up Mike Marshall, and even the shots that didn't land clean, Christina, they had an effect upon the top of the head in the body language of Mike Marshall. Even when he wasn't landing flush shots, he still felt that effect, and even that on the break, he's like, come on, you can't even give me that opportunity. And then the 3rd round, Victor Faust said, I've had enough. Time for me to go out there and finish this guy, and that's exactly what he did.
Puts him down for the 2nd time after a ruled slip. Robert Hoyle had seen enough, got up real slow on that count, and as you mentioned, Robert Hoyle making the right call, stopping this one when he did. And unfortunately for Mike Marshall, suffers a 2nd loss in his professional career, but kudos for him for taking the opportunity, saying, hey, look, I knew I was coming in here as the underdog, but I'm never going to turn down an opportunity, despite, you know, for me, was an opportunity that doesn't come around too often. So good on him for stepping in the ring tonight and giving it his best, but it's Victor Faust that is victorious. Let's send it over to our ring announcer, Mark Chinook, to make this official.
Ladies and gentlemen, here inside T-Mobile Arena, referee Robert Hoyle calls a stop to this bout at 1 minute 49 seconds of round number 3. For your winner by technical knockout, Victor Faust.
Congratulations once again to Victor Faust, who improves his record to 8-0 with 6 knockouts.
I like what I saw out of Victor Faust. U.S. debut comes out, looks impressive, and I look forward to seeing what's next. And honestly, I want to see him take a step up in competition next time, because it's clear that he is a lot more than just a prospect. I think he's starting to cross that line of being a fringe contender, and I want to see him take that opportunity and that movement. So.
Yeah, and absolutely, and to your point, he's 29 years old, so I'm sure they have a plan to move him rather quickly through the pro ranks, considering he spent so much of his time as an amateur.
No question about it, but Christina, all heavyweights tonight. I cannot wait. The main event of the evening, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, number 3 for the WBC Heavyweight Championship of the world.
We are so lucky to be bringing this action to you guys tonight. We have an all heavyweight pay-per-view card, as you mentioned. We've been waiting for this card to happen for quite some time, considering that we thought we would originally be here in July. As we welcome you inside the T-Mobile Arena, I'm Christina Poncher, joined by my partner tonight. You wear all the hats. Tonight it's the analyst hat, Ray Flores. And Ray, as we continue to talk up the pay-per-view coming up, what fight other than the main event are you most excited about?
Well, I would have to say Frank Sanchez and Efe Ajagba. They're both undefeated. Ajagba is a hard hitter. The guy has a dangerous right hand. Frank Sanchez training under Eddie Reynoso. He's Cuban. He had an extensive amateur background, but Sanchez said, I'm going to go out and I'm going to bully Efe Ajagba. Ajagba says, you don't respect me. You've been calling me out. I'm going to make you pay for calling me out in your transgressions. Tonight we find out. And that, to me, Christina, is a 50-50 fight.
I agree, and so is the rematch between Kovnowski and Helenius. I mean, how many punches were thrown in that first fight between those two? So that rematch coming up. And then Jared Anderson, when you talk about the next, we saw a great heavyweight prospect right now, but when you see Jared Anderson, sparring partner of Tyson Fury, getting to now appear on his pay-per-view debut on his undercard, people should really look out for him.
Well, Tyson Fury even went ahead and said that he believes that Jared Anderson is going to go ahead and become the heavyweight champion of the world down the line.
But before we get to our pay-per-view card, we're going to bring you a pro debut. How about making your pro debut on a pay-per-view card of Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder? Bruce "Shoo Carrington coming up in our next bout. His pro debut against Cesar Cantu, somebody that you've had a chance to see up close in person.
I do. I'll tell you, Cesar Cantu is a tough kid. He's one that, you know, he loves to fight. He likes to engage on the inside. But Bruce Carrington has the skills to pay the bills. He has an extensive amateur background. He could have made it to the Olympics, but because of a couple things with COVID, that did not happen. But I'm excited to see Bruce Carrington. Cesar Cantu should provide quality opposition to him.
As we mentioned, just a stacked card from top to bottom. Again, I mean, a great fight for a 4-rounder featherweight contest on these early prelims. And then in the main event of this preliminary portion of our undercard, after Carrington Cantu, you'll get to see Robesi Ramirez and Orlando Gonzalez, a fight that I've been very excited about. Robesi, 2-time Cuban Olympian, 7-1 as a professional, losing surprisingly in his pro debut, taking on the undefeated Puerto Rican in Orlando Gonzalez. That one, 10 rounds for the junior NABF featherweight title. So some really good action still to come on this undercard.
And that's the prelim portion. That's the prelims. We haven't even talked about the prelim fights. Bob Arum said that this is the deepest card we've ever seen on pay-per-view. But Christina, I know that our focus is the main event.
Our main event tonight, Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder, the trilogy. It is coming up later tonight. We've been on pins and needles waiting for it, and we're hours away now.
After months of uncertainty and negotiation, everything finally came together. The epic third battle between two of boxing's most dynamic personalities, Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. But early in July, Tyson Fury tested positive for COVID, and the July 24th date was postponed. Team Fury regrouped, and so did Deontay Wilder and his new trainer, Malik Scott.
1-2. Then go.
And now on October 9th, the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world will finally face off for the third time against the man who held the title for over 5 years in what will be a heavyweight trilogy fight for the ages.
Yes.
Welcome to Inside Fury vs. Wilder 3. Deep in the quiet woods of Alabama, life at times can move slowly. But inside these gates, Deontay Wilder's home is a tribute to his meteoric rise through the heavyweight division. As construction continues on what is known as Bomb Squad Island, Wilder's legacy is ever evolving as he works with two men that he considers brothers, longtime strength and conditioning coach Joey Scott and bodyguard and personal assistant Chris Bates, as the team heads toward reclaiming the heavyweight championship from Tyson Fury.
There's no dumbass person that's the greatest. No dumbass person is the greatest. It takes intelligence to be the greatest. A man is not judged by the material that he has. A man is judged by his awareness of the world. You gotta apply this to everything that we doing. There you go. There you go. Back. Forward. There you go. Come on. Back. Forward. There we go. His purpose is one thing, greatness. He fights not only to win, he fights for his culture. He fights for his family. He fights for generation wealth. He fights to motivate people into knowing no matter what happens in your life, trials and tribulations, you can't prevail. By any means necessary, we're gonna get to our goals and aspirations. When we combine together, who gonna stop us? Know where you at? Come on. Because can't nobody come in our circle and think that they come in with negativity. We don't believe in doubt and uncertainty. We don't believe in, if you got goals and aspirations, you go get it by any means necessary. I know. I am tired. Just my little fighter. It's gonna be okay. Okay. We have to okay, so you gotta go through this process, my boo. Okay. My little you're my little fighter. You're my little fighter. You're my little fighter. You're my little fighter.
Wilder and his team always find time for fun during training. But there's no mistaking the seriousness of their mission.
Main focus, main goal is to destroy. When I think of him, I see a clown. I feel very, very strong. And my mindset is very violent right now.
There you go, that's the champ. That's the champ.
When I'm in this state of mind, where my body is at this point, I'm unbeatable. I have nothing nice to say. He can have the belts. I want to get him out of there.
Mornings in Alabama symbolize that Deontay Wilder is one day closer to his fight with Tyson Fury. In preparation for the battle, the Bronze Bomber has added something new to his repertoire.
Our whole concentration during this camp is optimize his performance, and that's something that he hasn't had in the past. So you're going to see a new Deontay, right? Deontay that muscles fire faster, Deontay that muscles recover faster, Deontay that has more endurance, more power.
Win hurt business, so everything hurts. We need things to allow our body to heal and recover so we can get back on the battlefield.
And this is what the greats do. It's not how well you train, it's how well you recover.
Each thump from the machine sends a sensation that feels like electric shocks into the muscle and the bone. It is a process that is designed to increase blood flow and help the body heal.
You're releasing his muscles, they're relaxed, they're breaking up the scar tissue, breaking up the inflammation. So when he throws that punch,
it goes straight through your face.
I didn't say that, but yes.
Yeah, I'm like, tell the world that I need more. Trying to stack cause I've been poor. The all say it's my time to blow, I'm just lining up all that C4. Lord knows how I'm still low, but I'm thankful cause my heart's pure. Running life in that fast lane and I pray to God that I can't stall.
The WBC World Heavyweight Champion has come a long way since growing up with 2 parents and 3 siblings in one camper. He has luxury homes in multiple countries and matching luxury bathrobes for fighter and trainer.
Strong and black, like my trainers.
On top of it all, one of the best sports nutritionists in the world, serving as his personal chef. George Lockhart has been working with Fury since late 2019. Together, they have helped maximize the champion's body for peak performance. 5 meals per day, 7 days a week.
We actually went down in weight last camp. We got pretty low, and then talked to Sugar Hill, and he was like, man, he actually performs better at the specific, like heavier weight. So, well, this whole 18 months, like I've been to England a couple of times to work with him. And it was just like, let's shed some fat so when fight camp comes, he just concentrate on performance, you know what I mean? They just tell me what weight he needs to be, and then, like, I'll talk to Sugar, like, you know, the other day, he was like, hey, man, he's sparring, you know, need to up a little bit of the carbohydrates. We communicate like that.
Certain days, you know,
maybe add a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that. I don't want to say what it is because it's secrets, you know. So I just say a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
The secret formula has worked well for the former Marine and his team of nutritionists and chefs. They certainly have a proven track record of success, as their client list boasts a murderer's row of combat champions.
We do all right, man. I mean, like, we've worked with just about every champion you can think of, like Daniel Cormier, Conor McGregor, John Jones, Eddie Alvarez. It's been good.
And it's funny because we got into boxing about a year ago, and now it's like he works with Tyson, Josh Taylor, Badu Jack, Triple G, so it's not bad for a bunch of meatheads out of the Marine Corps.
Yeah, it's always good, you know. George is a professional at what he does. It's good to work with professional people who's ahead of the game, know what they're doing. And yeah, I wouldn't want to be with anybody else other than Big George over there in the kitchen.
Hey, brother.
For Team Fury, the competition within camp takes a backseat to soccer as they cheer on their country's national team when England takes on the Ukraine. And on this Saturday afternoon, everyone in the Gypsy Kings inner circle is united in rooting on their homeland's lads.
England's winning so far 1-0. But the last two big tournaments, they got to this stage.
We love you, England! We love you, England! We love you, England! Oh, England, we love you!
The match ends 4-0, and the champion can't pass up the opportunity to revisit his own past triumph as he enjoys the afterglow of the England victory.
I posted, I've not seen a beatdown over Ukraine like this since Dusseldorf, 28th of November 2015. And if you don't know what that date is, that's the date when I changed the heavyweight division forever.
And change the heavyweight division forever, he did. And something, you know, leading up to this fight, realistically, Ray, this is not round one of fight number 3. I mean, both of these guys are looking at this pretty much like round 20.
Well, they both, styles make fights. Collectively, I think that they produce fun fights. The second fight was obviously a masterpiece by Tyson Fury. The first fight was ridiculous. Back and forth, we saw the 2 knockdowns from Wilder to Fury. Fury was able to recover and come back. But the third fight, I think, will be the best out of the trilogy.
A lot of questions will be answered. We are hours away from the main event on our 4-fight pay-per-view still to come. But fights of this magnitude here in Las Vegas come together because different promoters have worked together to make fights of this magnitude, in this sense, PBC and Top Rank. And at the head of Top Rank is the Hall of Famer Bob Arum, and he knows all about promoting the big fights.
He is 89 years old, but the man is still as vital and vibrant as ever. Boxing promoter Bob Arum has been a part of the fabric of the sport for over 50 years. And in Tyson Fury, whom he has worked with since early 2019, the two have found a mutual partnership that brings out the best in both men.
Can't believe that he's back. Fury's back at number 1.
Tyson Fury is a character. He calls himself the Gypsy King, and he projects himself extraordinarily well. So he creates excitement for the sport, and a lot of what he does is done on with fun in mind.
I get paid to beat up on people.
I think Tyson's greatest strength is his confidence. He believes that he cannot be beat. He obviously fears nobody. You know, he's like the jolly giant that just goes into a fray and seems to enjoy himself while he's in the ring.
We're just going to go out there and have fun, Gypsy King style.
When I first met him, I really couldn't believe what he was about because he was so totally different.
Press conferences will never ever be the same after Tyson Fury.
I like Tyson Fury very much as a person. I am absolutely fascinated with him. He's a very interesting person.
Feels good.
This guy is really a hoot.
A hoot in a nice suit most of the time as he comes suited and booted each and every night. And that is one thing, speaking of attire, we are very interested to see what both of these men wear into the ring later tonight. And in order to see that, you'll have to buy the pay-per-view.
Do it now. Don't wait. I don't know what you're thinking. It's very easy to do. We even have the graphic that you can go ahead and put your phone up and order it right there. We're a few hours away. This is an all-heavyweight card. Everyone loves the heavyweights. Guess what? Because people, I want you to stay up, but they're going to go to sleep. Heavyweights, people are going to get knocked out tonight. They're going to sleep. And speaking of going to sleep, you're going to want to stay awake for our next fight with Bruce Carrington and Cesar Cantu.
Yeah, don't sleep on this bout right here. These two featherweights, albeit less than 5 bouts combined as professionals, partially because this is the pro debut of Bruce "Shoo-Shoo" Carrington, but he's matched tough in a pro debut. You and I were talking about this fight on the drive over here, and we're like, God, Cesar Cantu is no joke. I mean, this is some solid matchmaking in this undercard bout right here.
I think it just goes to show that the brain trust that is running Bruce Carrington believes that this kid could very well be on the fast track. He's fighting a kid who's 3-1, coming off of a loss. It was a close loss, but Cantu is a tough kid. He's from Weslaco, Texas. You know, that's the home area of Brandon Figueroa, current 122-pound world champion. So he knows, you know, he comes from a very tough area. He's a strong kid, and he knows that, look, he's the B-side, and if he comes out and shocks and beats Bruce Carrington, then he puts himself in line for a bigger financial opportunity.
Yeah, and he wants nothing more than to get back into the win column, and looking for his very first win as a professional is Bruce Carrington. He's done a ton of winning as an amateur, very solid prospect coming out of the amateur ranks. As you're getting a look at Cesar Cantu making his way to the ring right now, fighting out of Velasco, Texas, as my partner Ray mentioned, goes by El Matrix.
Well, look, he's worked with Ted Lucio, who has been a cut man for the Figueroa brothers. Also, Rudy Hernandez, who I think is a very underrated trainer. So it's clear that the corner is very much a top-level corner and an underrated corner for that matter. And they're not going to corner somebody if they think they're just going to go in there and get steamrolled.
And he looks the part too. I mean, got the sponsors already with just a handful of fights. Good on him, making the most of this opportunity tonight on this big card.
Well, this is the biggest stage you can think of. I mean, the heavyweight championship of the world in Las Vegas. This is what we live for, even being commentators in this business, Christina.
I mean, there's a ton of fighters that will never have the opportunity to fight on a pay-per-view undercard or have a fight this early on their career streamed on an ESPN platform, a Fox Sports platform at this point in their career.
And for Carrington, it just goes to show you how there is a belief that he can be special. How many guys do we know make their pro debuts in ballrooms or on club shows? Not Bruce Carrington. Las Vegas, Nevada, T-Mobile Arena, Fury Wilder #3 pay-per-view undercard. Oh, and by the way, you're being seen by millions of people on the ESPN and Fox Sports app. That's a nice baptism.
Yeah, Shoo-Shoo Carrington would say that he was meant for this opportunity. He was born for this opportunity. An extremely charismatic young guy, very likable fighter, has been in the gym with Kay Karoma, working with some of the, not obviously sparring with any of these heavyweights, but alongside guys like Efe Ajagba and Jarrett Hurd and Shakur Stevenson. So he's been around professionals and already carries himself as such, although tonight is his pro debut. He is making his way to the ring right now.
And I love his demeanor, all business. He's just coming out with a towel on his chest. I mean, all about business. There's no flash, there's no dash, there's no sparklers or fireworks. A little bit. Yeah, there you go. Okay, I was a little bit wrong here. But the trunks are okay, but I like just his demeanor, all focused, very determined. And now we're going to see what the Brooklyn, New York native has to offer in the professional ranks.
As you see it right there on his back, repping Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York, making his pro debut with that man right there in his corner, Kei Karoma, as we take a look at the tail of the tape.
Let's break down the numbers, and what stands out to me is the reach advantage for Bruce Carrington, and I thought it was so emblematic that he came out with that white towel over his chest, similar to that of Mike Tyson, who is exactly from his hometown. I think that is an homage to Iron Mike Tyson.
Definitely is. I watched a video of him when he was younger, and he even had the face tattoo drawn on his face.
Well, there we go.
So he's had the eye of the tiger and wanted to be in this position for quite some time. As we take a quick look at the rules, no standing 8 count, no 3 knockdown rule. A fighter cannot be saved by the bell in any round, and only the referee can stop the fight. Up now to our ring announcer, Mark Chinook.
Ladies and gentlemen, the return to the action here inside T-Mobile Arena in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. This battle is scheduled for 4 rounds in the featherweight division. Brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Our judges at ringside, Christian Leone, Steve Morrow, and Ricardo Gonzalez. And the man in charge of the sound of the bell, Ramirez Jr. Introducing the first. He weighed in at 127 pounds, wearing white trunks with blue trim. He brings a record of 3 wins with only 1 defeat. 1 victory coming by way of knockout from Waco, Texas, Satan and Cantu. Introducing Undercard. He weighed in at 127 pounds, wearing red trunks with white trim. He is making his professional debut from Brownsville, Bruce Carrington.
Fighter chief second, please. Fighter chief second. Mouthpiece. 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 All right, gentlemen, you received the instructions in the dressing room. Know what I expect? Good play fight. Legal punches here for you. Legal punches here for you. Touch gloves, good to both of you. Good luck, guys. Let's go,
All right, this one's scheduled for 4 rounds in the featherweight division. The pro debut of Bruce Carrington taking on Velasco, Texas' own Cesar Cantu.
Well, I find it to be interesting as well, Christina, that Bruce Carrington, his strength and conditioning coach, is the same strength and conditioning coach as Edgar Berlanga. They call him Scooter out there in Brooklyn, New York. So I know that Berlanga's a physical specimen. We'll see if Bruce Carrington can use that physical attributes here in this fight against Cesar Cantu.
Yeah, Bruce and Edgar Berlanga are childhood friends. He's also friends with Duke Reagan and several of these other fellow Olympians. He was the 2020 U.S. Olympic trials champion and would have represented the U.S. in Tokyo, but the IOC Boxing Task Force canceled that America's qualifier and turned to the rankings to determine, so he didn't get to make that trip into the Olympics. So here he is turning pro in the red trunks with the furry white trim against Cantu in the blue and white trunks. And right away, both guys looking to establish their jab and throw some good combinations here to start down to the body goes Carrington.
Well, they're both mixing it up as Cantu is stepping right to Carrington with his jab. Carrington really obliges as he throws it overhand right.
There's a strong jab. As you mentioned, double jab there from Cantu, answering right back. Both trying to establish the dominance there in the center of the ring.
And that's what I like about Cantu from the opening moments. He is, without a doubt, trying to show Bruce Carrington, look, I didn't come to just be your opponent and be a highlight reel on your pro debut. I'm coming to beat you and not just be your opponent.
You can tell that by his demeanor in there right now, trying not to give up that ground in the center of the ring as they take turns here.
Stop.
Shots to the
Bring it
body.
up, don't push his head down.
Brief warning there for the head clash as no blood, no foul there. Down to the body with the stab jab goes Cantu. Answering back up top with the 4-5 punch combination comes Carrington.
And it was a beautiful right hand that backed up Cantu. As you see now, Cantu is more reluctant to come forward. He is backpedaling because that right hand, he didn't like that too much. You could tell he backed off immediately after Carrington sprayed him with that.
Down to the body goes Carrington and back up top. Good right hand from Carrington and a good answer with the left from Cantu.
Carrington, I think, is enjoying the fact that Cantu is so brave and has this bravado to come forward because we're seeing the hand speed and we're seeing the accuracy of Carrington on display in the early going.
Let him go, Bruce.
I like for both of these guys too, this early in their careers, investing in the body work. Sometimes, especially in a guy making his pro debut, it takes some time for them to sit down on the punches. It takes some time to invest some work into the body since they're so used to pitter-pattering up top. I really like to see that from both of these men here early on.
Well, Carrington went to the body. I love that stabbing jab that he just used. Very similar to that of Mayweather. And the nose is reddening of Cantu.
The hand speed is just a little bit faster from Carrington here in the early rounds.
He's got wicked shots.
He really does. Nice start. Really good opening round here. This one short and sweet, scheduled for 4. Featherweight division. Both guys coming in at 127 pounds. You get a look at Carrington corner. He has Mike Basil as his cut man and Kate Karoma, and then his father, Carrington Sr., and John Rosales.
It's a quality corner, Christina.
100%. Mike Basil in your pro debut.
I mean, are you kidding me? Exactly.
Talk about true pros. I mean, Rudy Hernandez, you mentioned it. I mean, he's so much more than a cut man, but an outstanding trainer, underrated 100%.
Absolutely.
And someone that I feel like should definitely get his flowers right now. But nonetheless, a look at a couple replays from round 1.
Well, I love the hand speed of Carrington, and Cantu came forward, and that was a beautiful left hook that Carrington was able to connect upon, and then that beautiful left hook followed by that right hand. There's the right hand that backed up Cantu, and you saw that Cantu was trying to tie up, but then immediately said, okay, I can't tie him up, let me backpedal to give myself some time to clear the cobwebs.
Round 2 starts with a real sharp jab from Carrington, trying to pick up where he left off in round 1. A good job, Cantu, blocking those shots right off the gloves.
And Carrington, being a featherweight, 126 is a loaded division and full of young, hungry guys. And Carrington making his pro debut, I'm curious to see if he's successful tonight, where he moves forward from here.
Great shot down to the body with the left hand, and I do have to say, I mean, you and I, we call a lot of undercard fights. I don't think that Shushu Carrington looks like he's making his pro debut tonight. He looks like a seasoned fighter to me in there so far.
I'm going to point out the fact that I like the high guard of Carrington. He's not easy to be able to land upon. He's got a nice high guard. Bam, beautiful right hand.
Comes back with the left hook as well.
Stop!
Currently holding is Cantu. Cantu just a little bit lazy though with that jab to set up that right hand. I mean, Carrington can see that coming.
Cantu is throwing one shot at a time. Carrington's throwing machine gun-like bursts, but they're all accurate, and then he brings his defense back, and Cantu's like, I can't even counter this guy.
He's looking for an opening, looking for an opportunity, and meanwhile is being occupied with a strong lead left jab. He goes, to your point, one shot again down to the body, one shot, got out of range there. He's having a little easier time getting out of distance.
No.
Big right hand by Carrington that backed up Cantu again as he got lazy with his hands by his side. Carrington saw that opening and threw the right hand over the top.
Again with the right hand over the top for Carrington, and that's because you see Cantu holding that left a little close to the body. Why is he doing that? Because Carrington's right hand has found a hold to
Let's go. Pull your arm out.
So now Cantu's like, I'm just going to try to out-physical this guy because it's clear that he is the far more superior technical fighter. So let me try to crush him and smother his shots.
Yeah, there's a big right hand right there, and you can tell that one affected Cantu as he leans his body weight on Carrington. Comes back with the right hand, but just not the same type of force and velocity as the punches coming from Carrington.
Get off his head.
Another point with Carrington is he can fight on the inside. He's demonstrated he can fight on the inside and be effective. He's not just an outside fighter and uses his distance distance and his range.
Actually, I'm not mad at what Cantu's doing.
Watch your head, Caesar.
With his body weight to kind of lean on Carrington, trying to slow him down, smother some of these shots. The problem is he's leaning so far over that front foot, he needs to watch out for the uppercut.
Well, it's like what Bill Withers says, lean on me when you're not strong, and Cantu isn't as strong as Bruce Carrington.
He is not, and I didn't think we were going to get singing until
10 seconds, stop it down.
It is Las Vegas, the city of entertainment.
Looking sharp as ever. He can do it all, Ray Flores. Doing it all so far in his pro debut.
Bruce Carrington.
Bruce Carrington, yep. Shoe's having a good start so far. And, I mean, if you're in the Cantu corner, what do you think Rudy and those guys are telling him?
Well, they're like, look, you got to rough this guy up, because when you're dealing with this kind of ability, bang, that right hand by Carrington, sharp, accurate. Then, instead of just resting on his laurels, he threw that left hook as well to be able to give him another power shot. Carrington is stalking Cantu, but in a calculated manner, and that right hand continues to find the home. And what I like about Carrington's right hand is he's throwing it from a variety of different angles. He's throwing the straight right hand, he's throwing the overhand right, and Cantu's like, I can't even gauge and start to figure this guy's right hand out because it's coming from a variety of different angles.
Using feints already in his pro debut, right? But he's kind of like looking him off. He took one of those right hands. We're kind of like pushed inside and came with that overhand right, like you're talking about. I mean, this is seasoned veteran stuff from a guy in his pro debut.
This is maturity that we are seeing, and how I look at this young man, he reminds me of that. I mean, he has sort of, he's a little bit stockier than that of Chris Colbert, who's at 130 pounds, but he's a little bit more defined up top. He has that bravado. Colbert's from Brooklyn. He has that pizzazz. He has that ability that, look, I belong here. The lights aren't getting the best of him.
No, when you're FaceTiming Zab Judah before your fight, get ready. I mean, Brooklyn's is the building. I don't think he lacks for confidence.
No.
One bit, as he had Keyshawn Davis supporting him at the weigh-ins yesterday. Friends with Jared Anderson. I mean, all those guys. He's got a great group of people behind him. And right now is looking to continue to build on the momentum. Things slowing down a bit here in round 3 in terms of pace, as Cantu is looking to find an opening. There shoots a double jab.
Now we're seeing Cantu's trying to fight tall. He's like, all right, let me try to see if I can fight tall this guy and give him a different look. Well, that's what Carrington has seen nearly every different style of action from the amateurs.
Yeah, not left hand again, twice, just trying to hold him. Cantu needs to get his hands back up from his waist.
Cantu got lazy with that right hand, Christina. He got clipped with the left hook.
And right now, Carrington is sensing some blood as he looks to pull it on, and that's a good exchange. Finally, a nice answer back there. Cantu to help his shot down the body.
It's not a target practice for Carrington.
Cause my punch, right eye.
Blue
corner.
Carrington's body language suggests to me that I know I got this guy hurt. I'm able to pull him, and now it's time for me to turn out the lights.
Blood now trickling from the right eyebrow of Cantu as he's cut here in round 3.
Now Cantu's having to deal with the laceration outside of his eye. He used his glove to wipe it off, but Carrington knows I got this guy hurt.
The arsenal of punches and the barrages that we have seen from Carrington here in his pro debut. Really great work from Kay Karoma in getting his fighter ready for this moment. I mean, God, these guys have been so ready because they were waiting for that July card. He was crushed that his pro debut had to get pushed back. But you can just see how much work that he's continued to put in. It's showing and it's on full display right now.
Well, he looks sensational tonight. You know, he dealt with a strong kid and ends up putting out with the blood.
Blood now coming from the mouth as well of Cantu, as he's looking to try to find an answer. Tough as nails is not backing up, continuing to try to stand there and come forward, but has yet to really be first in any of these exchanges, as Carrington maybe backed off the gas just a tad bit here.
So the first minute of the first round was competitive. And since that time, Christina, it has been all Carrington. It was a 4-punch combination that jacked his jaw on numerous occasions.
I think they heard you. slowed down, and then they decided to turn it up there the final 10 seconds as we get ready for the fourth and final round.
Because why he's down here? Now look, another thing I want, don't swing over here. Swing. Okay? Because you're helping the person like that. Go here. Head in your chest. And you get it to the heart. Deep breath. So you breathe.
And as we take a look at more of the Bruce Carrington show here in the prelim portion, there's that left hook that he utilizes, and he started to gain confidence in walking down Cesar Cantu. Cantu throwing punches, but a lot of them arm shots and not really sitting down in his shots, but Carrington was. And the combinations that he's putting together are marvelous. And if you love the sport of boxing, that is just craftsmanship at its finest.
We're not scoring fights here ringside, but I think it's fair to say at this point, Cantu would need a knockout.
Yeah, I would say.
A pretty dominant performance from the opening bell in the pro debut of Bruce "Shoo-Shoo" Carrington.
I would say
Southville, Brooklyn, New York.
30-27 on my unofficial scorecard, Christine, in favor of Bruce Carrington.
You heard the instruction a little bit there as we listened in to Kate Caroma in the red corner telling you just kind of keep your head up on some of these combinations. Don't lean your head down too much. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the busy night Kate Caroma has. He has Jared Anderson and F.A. Ajagba on the heavyweight portion. Well, it's all heavyweights actually on our pay-per-view portion coming up later tonight. Still available for you to purchase on ESPN Plus and Fox Sports pay-per-view.
Better do it. This card is loaded. When Bob Arum, the CEO of Top Rank Incorporated, says this is one of the deepest pay-per-view cards he's ever seen.
From Carrington.
Beautiful left hook by Carrington, and this is the prelim portion. Wait till the pay-per-view.
That one stunned Cantu for a moment there. Trying to get some juice back in his legs as he get up on his toes, but that was a big shot there from Carrington. And you would think maybe he's looking to try to get that knockout in his pro debut.
Well, I think he's being smart about it too, because he realizes Cantu is trying to be unorthodox and land something crazy, but Carrington is not even giving him that opportunity. As Carrington comes forward, he puts his guard up and then he starts to throw, and he uses good head movement as well.
Cantu's taking some big shots, but man, he's tough as nails, continues to come forward. He's like, even in this very moment, trying to back up Carrington up against the ropes.
If you're a young fighter, you want to fight a guy like Cesar Cantu to see where you're at when it comes to being a young prospect.
Again, down to the body with the left hand. And we saw the matchmaking in this fight. I mean, to give a guy in your pro debut a tough out like Cesar Cantu has been, who knew coming into sight, quote unquote, the B side, but look, he's giving it his all right now in round 4. We got about under a minute to go.
And he was giving Carrington good work for the first minute, but Carrington proved to, from our standpoint, he could be something.
Some good hooks up top. There's that strong jab. Again with the right hook, chopping right hook. Again with the chopping right hook. Down to the body goes Cantu, but Carrington just says nothing that you're doing is hurting me, is affecting me right now.
What I like about Cantu, though, even though he's losing every round, is that he's still coming forward, fighting hard. He's still trying to get that home run shot. And Carrington's like, not tonight.
10 seconds to go here. Shoo-Shoo with the big left hook there. Left hook at the bell, and it is over. Spectacular pro debut for Bruce "Shoo-Shoo" Carrington.
If I could buy stock in a young fighter, Bruce Carrington would be one that I throw a lot of money at, because I think he could be something special just based on this one singular performance. He has a lot of skills and maturity that you can't teach. He looks, the way that he performed in the ring, Christina, is a lot older than that of being just 24 years old.
And you know what? He's a promotional free agent. I mean, I would think that, you know, yesterday the promoters would be lining up his own, and perhaps they are, but he right now is a free agent, and like you said, if I was top-ranked PBC, whoever, Mattress,
I'd give a blank check and said, listen, sign what you want, and then write in the number, and we will pay you throughout as you move forward.
He had amateur wins over David Navarro, Duke Reagan, Martino Jules,
and we saw
probably collected one tonight.
I would agree with you. And as we look at the attributes that Carrington, there's a nice jab by Carrington. He was able to fight on the inside well against Cantu, who's a tough customer from Weslaco, Texas. He did well on the inside. He fought well from the outside. That right hand was a big weapon of choice for him. He threw it from a variety of different angles. In the third round, he really started to bust up Cesar Cantu. That left hook caused the laceration outside of the right eye of Cantu.
And I'm just so impressed by the way that he threw his punches, the punch variety, down to the body early, back up top. We see these guys in the pro debut. You and I call a lot of these undercards. They're not turning their gloves over. They're not sitting down on their punches. It's a 1-2. It's very predictable. None of that was said tonight.
And it wasn't just fundamentals with Carrington. He was able to mix in an overhand right, the straight right hand, going to the body, machine gun-like burst. Not just the 1-2 that he could have easily used to beat this guy, but we saw combination punching. We saw accuracy. We saw good defense. He was able to bully the bully. He fought on the outside well. To me, across the board, this guy went out there and checked all the boxes. I know I'm sounding repetitive like that of Victor Faust, but I believe the same case has been applied with Bruce Carrington.
All right, let's send it up to our ring announcer for the official decision. Here is Mark Chinook.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 4 rounds here inside T-Mobile Arena, we go to the judges' scorecards for the official decision. Chris Migliori, Steve Morrow, and Ricardo Ocasio all score the bout 40-36. For your winner by unanimous decision, making his professional debut, Bruce Choo Choo Carrington.
Brownsville, stand up.
Yeah, baby.
Your boy has collected victory number 1 in his professional career. A shutout on the scorecards, just like he thought.
Look, Brooklyn is in the house, and I can't wait. The first of many victories for Bruce Carrington. I'm not a prognosticator, Christina, but this young man, I'm seeing him tonight. I'm excited, and I don't get excited often about young prospects and pro debuts, but that was something to behold.
I agree. I would buy stock in him as well. And wherever he ends up as a professional, should he choose to sign with their promoter for his next fight or keep raising his stock and raising that minimum even more, I'm a fan, and I'll continue to watch him throughout his pro debut. And how lucky were we to sit here and be a part of that.
And look, what an experience for him to be able to fight on a card of this magnitude.
It's fantastic. And speaking of a card of this magnitude, you still have time to buy the pay-per-view. Fury Wilder 3 getting started at 6 p.m. Pacific time here in Las Vegas. Fox Sports pay-per-view, ESPN Plus pay-per-view, BT Talk Sport pay-per-view. I mean,
and listen,
wherever you are,
I wouldn't move a muscle.
Yep.
Use your delivery apps to get yourself some food, get it delivered. Don't move a muscle. Sit in front of your TV and enjoy the prelims all night long, and then the pay-per-view coming up 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific time.
Coming up next for us here on the last fight of the digital prelims, Robesi Ramirez taking on Orlando Gonzalez, a pair of featherweights battling it out for the NABF title. Robesi Ramirez 7-1 with 4 KOs, a 2-time Cuban Olympian, taking on the undefeated fighter out of Aguadilla, Puerto Rico, in Orlando Gonzalez. This is a nice little top off this preliminary portion here with these two.
It's the main event of the prelim portion. Both guys they want to make a statement. And you know what, Christina? The one thing about the main event tonight, we know that Tyson Fury has a very good corner. As the late, great Emmanuel Stewart said, I believe Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder will be the future of the heavyweight division. Emmanuel passed away in 2012. He foresaw this happening, and lo and behold, we have the third and final trilogy of their tremendous 3 fights between these two.
Formerly known as Javon Sugar Hill, Tyson Fury's trainer-in-chief has legally changed his name to Sugar Hill Stewart to honor his uncle, renowned trainer Emmanuel Stewart, who had 20-plus world champions out of the world-famous Kronk Gym in Detroit. Today, the next generation of training stewards is doing film study and trying to find a nuance or detail that will help Tyson Fury be victorious again in his third clash with Deontay Wilder on October 9th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas.
is now time for Wilder and Fury. And this place right now is absolutely electric.
I do feel the fight was controlled from the first round. When the bell rang, Tyson Fury jumped out.
There's a right hand by Fury.
First round was great. It was a lot of pressure. It was intense. And Tyson Fury was taking control, using the jab.
A jab that snapped back the head of the champion.
I definitely liked what I was seeing in the first 2 rounds. Tyson Fury just being aggressive, keeping pressure on Deontay Wilder. That was the plan.
Oh my goodness, they're fighting even after the bell.
The first knockdown that Tyson Fury issued to Deontay Wilder was a 1-2.
Fury scores the knockdown.
When he hit him, he just fell right out. His feet came right from up under him. When Deontay went down, I was thinking, let's get it over with. Put some more pressure on him because I saw that he was hurt.
Can Tyson Fury finish off Deontay Wilder?
Go get him, go get him, go get him.
Wilder's legs are not underneath him. Wilder is in huge trouble.
And right at the end, you see him do like a little dance, is what they call it. You can see his legs were bothering him. I was just focused on continuing the pressure, continuing to put punches together, continuing to land power shots.
The left side of his jaw swelling. It looks like his eardrum may be busted. He has blood coming out of his mouth.
Now you got to keep pressure on him so you don't recover. Big body shot.
Second time he's been down.
He's boxing and he's controlling. He's sticking to the game plan. Everything that he's worked on is working. And now it's time to finish the job.
Wilder needs to stay away from the ropes.
He does not look
good. Right hand. It's team up. Tyson, and this one is over. Tyson Fury has become the new WBC heavyweight champion of the world.
I didn't see the towel get thrown in initially. I saw the referee wave it off. I guess at that point I saw the towel on the canvas. He finally took his time, kept the distance, and the fight was over, just as we planned.
Tyson Fury!
I'm always teaching Tyson so that Tyson's protected and he can go out there and get that knockout that we're looking for again.
Both sides have not shied away from the fact that they are seeking blood. They are seeking a knockout tonight. You will not want to miss it. Still time to buy the pay-per-view, all heavyweight pay-per-view leading up to our main event, the third fight, the trilogy. Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder looking to settle the score once and for all.
Christina, here's what I look at this fight in the main event. You hear guys, even when there's bad blood involved, these two guys have been adamant throughout the past 3 years in their trilogy. Their first fight was in December of 2018. That they, in this third fight, they don't want to just beat the other man. They want to cause physical harm to the other person. It's not enough to just win. They want to cause permanent damage to the other. What I'm expecting is a violence, calculated violence in that ring in our main event.
That's coming up later tonight, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern. But to top off our preliminary portion of the undercard for the Junior NABF Featherweight Championship, is the two-time Cuban Olympian Robesi Ramirez taking on the undefeated Puerto Rican in Orlando, Gonzalez.
Well, when I look at Robesi Ramirez, he's trained under the guidance of Ismael Salas, who happens to be one of the all-time best trainers from Cuba, led your Dennis Ugas to a victory over Manny Pacquiao here back on August 22nd. Salas' stock continues to rise, and it is clear that he is getting his fighters of Cuban descent to be more offensive. He's sticking with, it's obvious that they come from the Cuban school of boxing. They are technical fighters. They are so smart, but we're seeing them be more aggressive. The knock on the Cuban fighters in the professional ranks, they haven't been able to win that big fight. That was dispelled when Ugas beat Pacquiao, and one of the attributes with that was the fact that Ugas was aggressive and really pushed the pace. And with Ramirez, I'm curious to see if he does the same here tonight against Orlando Gonzalez.
He was in the locker room with Ugas that night. He supported his countrymen from the minute he saw that he stepped in and got the opportunity. He said he believed that Ugas could pull off the upset and pull off the upset he did. So kudos to that team. And Ismael Salas also has trained Gamboa, Irislandi Lara, etc. So in good hands there, and made that change after losing his pro debut to Adnan Gonzalez. But coming to the ring now is a fighter that doesn't know how to lose, hasn't done it yet at all as a professional. The undefeated Puerto Rican fighter, Orlando Gonzalez. This is his first scheduled 10-rounder and is a really good test at this point in his career, Ray, to see where he's at against a talented prospect in Ramirez.
Well, you brought up a great point, Christine, on the fact that right now Puerto Rico is not, they don't have a big superstar, even someone that they can consider to be a budding superstar. Orlando Gonzalez against Ramirez tonight, this is a significant fight because if he's able to beat Ramirez, then it puts him in line and furthers him up the totem pole here in the division, in the featherweight division, the junior featherweight division. So I'm excited to see this because Puerto Rico is a boxing-rich country and they want a young superstar. Can Gonzalez be that guy?
Not if his opponent has anything to say about it. Making his way to the ring in just a moment, Ramirez. But just to touch on one last thing from Orlando Gonzalez, he has been around boxing his whole life. His cousin is also a professional prospect for top-ranked boxing in Henry LeBron. So they know the magnitude of boxing in Puerto Rico, and they all know that Puerto Rico, the island, has been looking for their next biggest and brightest star. He is one of those guys that would love to carry that torch, but to do it, he's got to get through Robesi, El Tren, Ramirez. You want to talk about an elite amateur background? How about over 400 fights, a handful of defeats, a two-time Olympic gold medalist?
Two-time?
I mean, two-time.
Two-time, not once, twice.
There's only a handful of fighters that have ever done that in the Olympics, and the biggest victory for him as an amateur was that win against Shakur Stevenson at the 2016 Olympic Games. He won by decision 2-1 when Shakur got the silver medal. Everybody remembers that image of Shakur, and we thought maybe we'd see them face off in the professional ranks, but Shakur has kind of really been on a fast track now, looking to be a two-time world champion.
Him and Jamel Henry coming up October 23rd, going to be an excellent fight, but as you pointed out, Ramirez, the amateur background is there, a little bit of a stumble in his pro debut, but I can't wait to see this matchup as we take a look at our tail of the tape. You see the height advantage is in favor of Gonzalez, just a slight reach advantage for Ramirez.
Let's go to Mark Chinook for the official introductions. Sending it up now. Take it away, Mark.
Ladies and gentlemen, we return to the action here inside T-Mobile Arena in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. This evening's action is brought to you by Bob Arum's Top Rank Incorporated, Frank Warren of Queensberry Promotions, Bomb Squad Promotions, and TGB Promotions. This is a Premier Boxing Champions presentation. This bout is scheduled for 10 rounds for the vacant NABF Junior Featherweight title, and brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Our judges at ringside, Max DeLuca, Steve Morrow, and Don Trella. And the man in charge at the sound of the bell, Raul Caez Jr. Introducing first, out of the blue corner. He weighed in at 126 pounds, wearing black trunks with gold trim. He brings a perfect record, 17 wins, no defeats, 10 victories coming by way of knockout. From Aguadilla, Puerto Rico, Orlando Introducing out of the red corner, he weighed in at 126 pounds, wearing gold trunks with blue and black trim. He brings a record of 7 victories with only 1 defeat, 4 victories coming by way of knockout. He is a 2-time Olympic gold medalist from Cienfuegos, Cuba, Robert
Hector. All right, gentlemen, receive the instructions in the dressing room. Know what I expect. Good, clean fight. Ya recibieron las instrucciones que una pelea limpia. Golpes legales para ti, golpes legales para ti. Buena suerte los dos.
Vaca, nene.
And kudos to the matchmakers again for putting these two together at this point in both of their professional careers. Robacy, you'd think at this point can't really take another loss in just under 10 fights with the amount of pressure that has been on him since his pro debut. And Orlando Gonzalez willing to risk it all with his undefeated record against arguably one of the greatest amateurs of our generation.
And you're absolutely right. And also, Christina, the fact that they're both southpaws as they are starting off. And one thing that I think needs to be dispelled, and I've been on a crusade when it comes to trying to dispel this, just because you lose once or twice doesn't mean your career is over. When, Ramirez lost his pro debut, people wrote him off immediately. And since that time, he has rattled off 7 straight victories, of which 4 of those have been by knockout.
And I don't think he lost not even a handful of rounds in all of those fights combined. He really, since getting with Ismael Salas, has changed everything and has looked like a better fighter each and every time. And you talked about that Cuban school of boxing where he has this great technical ability, but he has an aggressiveness that he's put behind it as well, which I really like. He doesn't necessarily have this one-punch knockout power. It's more of an accumulation of punches that brings his opponents down, but I mean, really has like you mentioned, has turned things around and has not let that loss in his pro debut affect him.
Well, you want to talk about aggressive in our main event tonight with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder? You think they're going to be aggressive? You bet they will be. Order the pay-per-view now, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific time, but look at Ramirez go!
How about him shooting from the hip on that uppercut to split the guard of Gonzalez here in round 1. Gonzalez with the little fringe on his trunks with the black and gold. Robacy Ramirez in the gold and blue.
Now Ramirez is shooting from the hip. Now after our fight's over tonight, I'm going to be shooting from the hip, but that's after a few cocktails. But, that's another topic for another day.
I'll join you.
Ramirez, though, he looks very good. He looks sharp. He's very confident. He's relaxed in there.
Yeah, he's definitely got some swagger to him, the way that he fights. And you can tell that shows his confidence and how much he is confident in his preparation and in his corner.
And Ramirez is very relaxed. He's loose, whereas as I'm looking and observing Gonzalez, he's very tight. He's trying to throw everything with a knockout intention, whereas Ramirez is just letting it flow.
Tapu is the affectionate nickname given to Orlando Gonzalez, but as you mentioned them being both southpaws, he usually goes by El Zurdo de Oro, the golden left.
Yes.
Hence the gold on his trunks tonight. Oh, nice lead right hook from Robacy Ramirez. As typically you don't like fighters leaning in with their head on the line with their hands down, but he's done fairly well managing the distance, although he got clipped there. It's a little bit of a low shot with the right hand there from Gonzalez, but
Ramirez, he's very bold in the sense that he's sort of sticking his chin out there and he's smiling at Gonzalez as to say, come on, hit me, I dare you, because you don't have the ability to be able to do anything to me.
Both got some good mix here in round 1. You already see a little bit of redness from the left side of the face of Gonzalez from that strong lead right hand of Robacy coming out of that southpaw position. But, it's almost like a mental game as well. You go in there and you're like, okay, I'm going to start this fight with my hands down, airing of confidence. I'm not worried about you and what you bring, but he should be, because, as I mentioned, Gonzalez is undefeated. Has never even been down as a professional and has 10 knockouts to his credit.
And you know what? That gives me vibes of Christina, of that of Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is notorious for doing that. These unorthodox things. He'll stick his tongue out at you. He'll put his hands behind his back. He wants to clown you, and he's going to tell you, do something about it. Well, tonight, Deontay Wilder is going to try to do something to Deontay, or to Tyson Fury, as Fury's going to try to do to Wilder.
Yeah, maybe perhaps taking a page out of that Fury showmanship book, if you will, is Robacy Ramirez. I love the opportunity, but how about that uppercut shot?
That beautiful left uppercut. Oh, that was sharp. That was probably one of my favorite punches that I've seen of the entire afternoon thus far.
Round 2, scheduled for 10 for the junior NABF featherweight title. Robacy Ramirez and Orlando Gonzalez, both southpaws. Robacy now putting that guard up a tad bit as he looks to use his footwork to get him out of some trouble there.
And if I'm Orlando Gonzalez, what I'm trying to do, because it is clear that the more athletic and the faster fighter is that of Robeisy Ramirez, attack the body, try to wear him down, throw
right
a shot.
on cue.
Look at that. I mean, you have to slow him down. You have to not allow him to have his legs in the 6th and 7th round. So how do you do that? Like having a savings account. You invest early and just allow it to sit there because it'll pay dividends down the line.
Orlando looking to double, triple up on that jab, then shoot the left hook to the body, trying to get that guard to come down now. As Robeisy has taken to more of a defensive stance here early in round 2. Oh, nice combination there, backs up Gonzalez.
Well, Ramirez landed that right hook on the top of the head that affected the equilibrium of Gonzalez, and it was clear that he was off balance, but it did affect him. It didn't totally short-circuit him, but it wobbled him momentarily.
Yeah, he shot that right hand right around the guard of Gonzalez, but right back to it comes Gonzalez. Cantu with the combination, trying to do the same, get around that guard of Robeisy. Perhaps Salas told him, okay, get your hands up after that demonstrative first round where he was
playing around. And you wonder if that is deterring Gonzalez from being aggressive. Beautiful toe-to-toe action.
Brings it with the left hand, then down to the body and back up top as Robeisy Ramirez says, bring it on.
Gonzalez blinked quickly, and that showed me that, look, okay, I have to deal with the firefight. I got to get close to the fire, but not get burnt in the process. That's a delicate balancing act, like being on a high wire act, Christina.
Down to the body goes Gonzalez, something, Ray, that you mentioned he should do early to try to slow down the movement and footwork of Robeisy.
If Gonzalez is to be successful tonight, he's got to make this a more physical fight. This little peekaboo style, the gamesmanship, the flash and dash, he's got to take and press, you know, Ramirez against the ropes, rip him to the body, and try to rough him up. He has to make him uncomfortable.
Catching the guard there is Gonzalez. Robeisy sensing that he's about to pick up the pace here as the round, but you can just tell a little bit on the offensive. Robeisy backed up a bit in this round.
And if you're Gonzalez, you got to be wondering, look, I know you like to play around and you like to have some theatrics, but let's get a little more serious because this guy is no joke.
I don't think Robeisy realized there was only 10 seconds when he looked like he was starting to come on here, but that early, that shot right there, you love that one, that upper.
I absolutely love that. And then that right hook that we just saw on the top of the head that affected the equilibrium of Orlando Gonzalez. And I like this exchange. And you saw that both guys went to what has gotten them to be successful. The fact that Ramirez was throwing that right hook on the top, the fact that Gonzalez was attacking the body and pressing the issue. I want to see more of what we saw from both guys, respectively, in this third round, and see which man is going to be Ismael Salas is a wonderful strategist, but also he is a terrific motivator, and I'm very curious to see how Ramirez comes out in this third round.
Strong jab and a left hook to the body starts Gonzalez, and I think that his corner likely wanting him to be first a little bit more. If Robeisy's going to sit there and kind of have some antics and play with his hands down, throw shots. That's how you're going to score points. That's how you're going to win yourself rounds. You might as well take advantage of those lulls.
Well, and Ramirez is the kind of guy, especially coming from the Cuban school of boxing, when he gets into a rhythm and he starts getting confident, he is very difficult to beat because his confidence, he feels like he's King Kong in there. So how do you do that? You have got to be able to take away and not allow him to get into his rhythm. And a way to approach that, attacking first, as you pointed out, Christina.
Double right hand. Straight left against that combination. And I like that he's doing a good job for the most part of throwing multiple punches. Although Robeisy has a pretty tight guard now and is deflecting some of these shots off the gloves. It's still making him have to think in there.
Absolutely. You got to be able to say, you can't get comfortable, my friend. You're going to be dealing with a lot of punches all night long, and that's why you put in such an extensive training camp.
The best start to a round, in my opinion, so far for Orlando Gonzalez here in round 3. Brief warning there for a shot that was low. I believe probably the second time in the fight. Basically looking to answer with the right hand. Gonzalez corner looking for him to feint, then work inside.
Good work between these two guys in this third round. I think it is very much both men respect each other, but
That's why Robacy, though, has really seemed offensively. Like right now, he could have been throwing punches, and right now it took about 30 seconds to throw one looping left uppercut. It was a beautiful shot, but at the same time, I'd like to see use your jab, shoot your jab out there. What are you waiting for?
you're not getting and wowing the judges based on the squat challenge that we just saw. I mean, if you want to do that in the gym on your own time, by all means, God bless you. But in the ring, you are not making an impression on the judges, and honestly, you're not scoring any shots and scoring points. But I mean, that's his style, so will it pay dividends down the line?
More active than he's been in these last 2 rounds. I'm not really sure what's going on as far as the activity level, but Orlando Gonzalez trying his best to capitalize on a lot more punches there in that round, and maybe sensing that he's turned some things around, winning maybe the last round or 2 here.
Well, I think it is, without a question, a competitive fight thus far, and Ramirez has got to be able to start to take this a little more seriously. He is super talented, but look at Gonzalez pressing the issue, and he saw that squat. He threw the jab, but what did he do? Did he follow it up? He followed it up with some gamesmanship, but he's not scoring.
No, none of those punches in that exchange from Ramirez landed at all.
Whereas Gonzalez is like, okay, if you want to do this, that's more to your benefit. And you're seeing something to keep note of, Christina. Swelling outside the right eye of Robacy. Jacob's Dick Grant, one of the best cut men in the world, working on that eye. But I think that's something to keep your eye on.
Round 4, scheduled for 10. This for the junior NABF featherweight title. I didn't really even realize there was a junior, and I thought the NABF was kind of it's hard to keep track.
Listen,
that's
it's
a conversation for another day.
It's like alphabet soup, and I don't really care for soup, so give me a nice steak, and you know what? We need the meat of the championships. But right now,
and we're getting that in our main event tonight, by the way.
Yes, we are. We are getting a full massive steak. Yeah, a porterhouse. A porterhouse. We're getting a tomahawk, 32 ounces, medium rare, my friends.
Yeah, silly meat.
Order the pay-per-view, and if you want to eat steak while you're watching the pay-per-view, then by all means, I suggest it. Do it now.
Send one ringside.
Yeah, please do. But right now, Gonzalez and Ramirez. I mean, can you believe this, Christina? This is the main event of the prelim portion.
You know, and these two are worthy of it. Their styles are a little different than what we're going to see from the heavyweights later tonight, but it's been a little more of back and forth here between these two, with Orlando Gonzalez picking up the pace in round 3. Finally, Robacy Ramirez shooting off a triple jab there, letting his hands go a bit more, but it looks a lot different in the last round and a half than he did in the first 2.
Well, he's getting serious is what he is. I mean, he's not, you know, sticking his tongue out. He's not, you know, sort of flailing around and using these crazy feints. I mean, now he's doing it, but he was more active in the initial part of this 4th round than what he has been throughout the entire fight.
Down to the body, wide looping left hook from Robacy out of that southpaw stance.
I don't know if Gonzalez is maybe taking this round to adjust to the more aggressive style of Ramirez, but he isn't throwing with as much frequency as he was earlier. Now he does.
Little gamesmanship back there from Gonzalez saying, okay, bring it.
What I want to see Gonzalez do is go back to the body. He has sort of abandoned that tactic in the last round and a quarter, and I want to see Gonzalez attack the body. For Ramirez, I think it is apparent that he needs to double up on his jab and set up that beautiful straight left. That left uppercut was problematic for Gonzalez when he landed it in that first round.
Yeah, it was the best looking and most effective shot of the fight, as he's invested a little more in the body than has Gonzalez, but still, those looping shots up top haven't done Gonzalez much luck, as finally
beautiful
3 good shots to the body from Robesi.
And I think Robesi, in this particular instance, Christina, is trying to demonstrate to Gonzalez, look, I can fight on the inside too, and I am going to get the better of these exchanges, thus affecting the mental fortitude of Gonzalez.
Beautiful combinations here. I mean, he loves that left uppercut, right hook. He's landed it twice in the last 30 seconds of this fight.
He's putting together his punches, and we're starting to see Robesi Ramirez get into his groove and his rhythm, something that Gonzalez cannot afford.
Much better finish to that round. Round 4 from Robesi Ramirez. Take a couple looks at replays here, Ray.
Well, this was some inside work. There was a nice double right hook, and then for Gonzalez, but back comes Ramirez to demonstrate to him, listen, I can fight on the inside, and I can beat you at your game as well. And you pointed out about that beautiful right hook, and you saw that the volume of punching for Gonzalez dropped, especially in the second half of that round, Christina.
Yeah, I mean, he
Cada vez que tú aprietes se para.
Más agresivo, nos vamos a casa. Vámonos. Therefore, Gonzalez continued to be more aggressive, but once he opens up and he starts to throw punches, he has the faster hands. What did it do? It slowed Gonzalez down. That's what we were saying that he needed to do if he needed to work himself back into round 3 and capitalize on it in the second half there at round 4.
I think it's clear that the more well-versed offensive fighter is that of Robesi Ramirez. The fundamentally sound fighter is that of Orlando Gonzalez. But when you're fundamentally sound and you're dealing with the guy who has more offensive physical attributes than them, then how do you combat that? By being more physical and trying to rough them up and make it a high contact, high volume kind of a fight.
Well, yeah, there are plenty of people that believe that their offense is their best defense. If they're the ones throwing punches and letting their hands go, oftentimes they're able to do better in those rounds than that of their opponent.
You know what, as I'm looking at Robesi Ramirez, and I think it's so interesting that Orlando Gonzalez is from Puerto Rico, but Robesi Ramirez reminds me of the late, great Puerto Rican champion, aside from the ring attire, Hector Macho Camacho, with some of the things that he does, kind of bobbing in and out, sticking his tongue out, moving his head around, the antics. It's very Camacho-like vibes. And, I mean, look, Camacho's had some big moments here in Las Vegas as they said Macho time, but we'll see if it's Robesi Ramirez time here tonight.
I think he wants nothing more than to continue to fight on big cards like this, fight on big stages. He knew coming up into the professional ranks, the highly touted amateur that he was meant for greatness. He truly feels that way. You can tell it by the confidence he exudes, but I'm okay if he pulls that back just a little bit more to let his hands go forward instead of some of the
antics. I mean, it's a metaphor for life. You need to have balance in things. You can't just go one way or the other because that's not good for anybody.
That shot woke him up for a second as Orlando Gonzalez lands his best punch of the fight, and now that makes Robesi Ramirez say, oh, okay. And then finally let his hands go.
And we could hear them laughing at one another here at our broadcast position.
And he got caught one step back, goes back down to the body, does Ramirez. Now backing up Gonzalez.
With a fundamental approach, Ramirez throwing punches from a multitude of angles that seem to be affecting Gonzalez. But Gonzalez is holding his ground and very firm inside the middle of that ring.
Cataputo, ¿estás bien?
Christina, there is a laceration outside underneath the left eye of Orlando Gonzalez, and I believe that started here in this game.
Yeah, there's a right hand to add one to the chin there from Ramirez. But the referee warned them from a slight headbutt, and Robesi putting in a strong finish to this round. He landed a couple good licks, and Orlando taking a deep breath as he walks back to his stool.
And we're halfway home.
I mean, if Robesi fought the round the way he did the last 10 seconds of the last few rounds, he would probably be way ahead on the scorecard, but he's made it through the rounds pretty close.
Well, he was sort of lackadaisical in some of those rounds, but that was not to be the case here in this 5th round, as Gonzalez was trying to apply the pressure, but not many of those punches landed. The defense and the technical aptitude of Ramirez on display. He did get sprayed with that right hook.
Yep. But one shot that made him, and then what? It's like, oh, okay, now I'm going to come forward because he got caught with that one shot.
He got upset. He's like, all right, you got me. Now I'm going to hit you with a 4 or 5 piece. That's exactly what he did. And don't forget tonight, Christina, oh my goodness, all heavyweights on the pay-per-view portion.
They've made it real easy, haven't they? Just take your phone up, scan the QR code, and you can buy the pay-per-view from your phone, link it to your TV, laptop, tablet, wherever you are. If you're on the move, you won't want to miss our all-heavyweight pay-per-view card coming up starting at 9 p.m. Eastern. Live on pay-per-view.
Here in Las Vegas, this place is going to be electric already. I'm feeling some